Hello. First Corinthians chapter 13, verse 1. A long reading, but I'm going to take us through as fast as possible. Paul says, if I speak in the tongues of men or of angels, but do not have love, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have faith that can move mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give all I possess to the poor and give over my body to hardship that I may boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, it always trusts, it always hopes, and always preserves. Love never fails. But where there are prophecies, they will cease. Where there are tongues, they will be stilled. Where there is knowledge, it will pass away. For we know in part and we prophesy in part. But when completeness comes, what is in part disappears. When I was a child, I talked like a child, I thought like a child, I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I put the ways of childhood behind me. For now we see only a reflection as in a mirror, then we shall see face to face. Now we know in part, then I shall know fully, even as I am fully known. And now these three remain: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of this is love. It is not a coincidence that when Paul talks about speaking like a child, or talking like a child, thinking like a child, and reasoning like a child, and then now becoming a man and having to put the childhood behaviors and talks behind him, he speaks of it when he speaks of love. He says in verse 11, when I was a child, I talked like a child, I thought like a child, and I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I put the ways of childhood behind me. It is not a coincidence that when he's talking about growing up, he's talking about love. He speaks about love and then speaks about growing up. This tells me one thing, that love is the language of grown-ups. Love is a language, and it is the language of grown-ups. The only way to know whether you have grown, the only way to measure your growth is if you love people now more than you used to, if you have begun to see things and people differently and open your heart and arms to love every and anyone, it is the way to know if you have grown. It is your growth spiritually and wholly, because when we grow spiritually, then all other areas of our lives are influenced by our spiritual lives. So the only way to know whether you have grown spiritually and wholly is if you love other people. It is not known by speaking in tongues. It is not known by how much you prophesy. It is not known by how much you preach. It is not known by how well you sing. It is not known by the things that you do. It is not known by, your bank statement or the things that you have done in church. It is not known by how much you have contributed in church. It is known by how you love other people. So I came up here to ask you, are you a grown up? Have you grown? Is there a difference from who you were last year and the person that you are this year? I know that there are people that cross our lines every time, but that is just what life is. And God expects us to live above it. Actually, the Bible says that we are seated with Christ in the heavenly places. That means that we are seated above all things. We are seated above offense. We are seated above the issues of life. We are seated above the things that would want to oppress us. That is, we have been given power to sit over these things. Yeah. So the only way to know if you have grown is how you love. Have you grown up?